we are moving now to Portland. That was a good transition into that. I'm just so skeptical on what Portland is doing right now.
Other than hiring Schmitz.
Yeah, everything other than hiring Mike, which I thought was brilliant. And I think that Mike is just the best. And I'm so happy that he got this job. People I think know how I feel about Mike. I think he's just he's such a great person, and he is incredibly good at this. He is so good at this. I think he's going to absolutely be phenomenal in Portland's front office. Other than that, I'm just not sure where they're going. Like, what is the plan here? Because they move. I'll just ask you the question. What is the plan here, Danny? Can you explain it to me?
I think the plan is to build a reasonably credible team for the present, sell the team, and then let the new owner figure out how to deal with the fallout.
I like that. I like that take, actually. My immediate question here is just, how does this team compete? How does this team compete, basically? So, like, let's say they retain, because it seems like they're going to try and retain all of their talent. Like, they're going to keep Anfernee Simons, and we'll talk about that in a second. They're going to try and keep Jusuf Nurkic, which, unrestricted free agent. We'll talk about that in a second. And then they're going to guarantee Josh Hart. You have Damian Lillard, Anfernee Simons, Josh Hart, big glaring gap at the 4, and then Jusuf Nurkic, and then a whole bunch of guys that, resemble an expansion team, basically. Why do they think that can compete in the West?
I don't know that Joe Cronin is confident that it will, but I mean, Damian Lillard is a very good player when he's available. And the idea that he's maybe been hurt for longer than just this year could potentially indicate that. But the other part of it is the opportunity cost of going that route. There are really only 2 of them. So one of them is it weakens your draft pick for the next couple of years. But then the other one is if it costs assets to get that other player, like if you have to give up 7 to get a player who's going to help you right now, like obviously the number 7 pick probably going to help you in the future. But overall, it's not that steep a sacrifice unless you were really willing to bottom all the way out. And I'm assuming the Blazers weren't going to do that, especially if they were going to keep Lillard. So the difference between the 10th pick and the 15th or the 20th pick is not as stark as the difference between the 20th pick and the 4th pick. And that's more the realm. And you're trying to sell and you're trying to do all that kind of stuff. So I would be more loath to use the 7 to upgrade than I think they're going to be, but I understand that their pressures are different.
What would you do? What is the number for Anfernee Simons, who averaged 20 points a game and shot 40% from 3 on a billion attempts from 3 per game late in the season?
I was very surprised. So like I did some video work on him about midway through the season, which incidentally right before the wheels kind of fell off for the Blazers. And I was very impressed. Like he has become a much better pick and roll operator than I expected. Like it's not the extreme of when I watched Shai Gilgeous-Alexander a couple of years ago, oh man, like this guy's the star in waiting, but it was still very good. And Simons is intriguing because he can work on ball and he can work off ball. He can't defend, but that's okay. And so by number, it's probably in the low to mid 20s, maybe like 23, 24 million a year. And if somebody maxes him, you probably match it anyway, just because that's so close and you don't want to lose him for nothing. So like my number, and the other good news for the Blazers is that I don't know who that team is. Like maybe it's Troy Weaver and the Pistons that go after him. I don't think it's the Memphis Grizzlies for a bunch of different reasons. Like a Simons, John Morant backcourt would be a little bit flammable. But so I think that Simons might be one of those cases where there is actually some leverage from the Blazers just because he has so few suitors. Not because he's a bad player, but just because restricted free agency is all about falling in love. And there aren't that many people that are eligible.
I'm glad that you brought up the Pistons because I think this would be my target if I was the Pistons. He is a perfect fit with Cade Cunningham. Cade really needs someone that can generate pull-up jumpers at a high level next to him and be an athlete and like pressure the basket, depending on what they do at 5, right? Like maybe Jaden Ivey falls to number 5 and I would just take Jaden Ivey and then be happy, right? But this is really the guy that I would take I would rather have Anfernee Simons if I was them than Jalen Brunson, because I think that Simons being 22 years old fits their age timeline a little bit better than 26-year-old Jalen Brunson does. I think that his scoring upside over his last 27 games, he missed the last 20 games of the season, but his last 27 games, he averaged 23 points on 46% from the field and 42% from 3 on 10 3-point attempts per game, 6 assists in that time as well. He is like the perfect combo guard to play next to Cade, I think. Like,
I would like somebody who's better defensively, but offensively, it's a fantastic finish you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, if I was them, I'd be willing to go for 100, for 110, something like that for Simons. And do we think Portland matches that, given that they're trying to sell? I don't know. Like, maybe they're not trying to sell. That's the other thing. Like
they are. I mean, they are, but they might not be. It might not be like tomorrow. But it might be tomorrow. Who knows?
The Allen Trust said to Woj, the team is not for sale right now. Maybe they are. Maybe they're not. I don't know. If I was them, I'd be running at that $2 billion offer from Phil Knight, though. That seems good for a Portland Trailblazers team. Number 7 overall pick. Last thing on the Blazers. Who is the best player you could get for the number 7 overall pick?
Trying to think if you could get somebody better than Jeremy Grant.
I think it's probably Jeremy Grant.
It's probably Jeremy Grant. I don't think that's enough for like OG Anunoby or somebody who's younger. So Grant is the best I can think of.
That's a great question. Would I trade number 7 for OG Anunoby?
I wouldn't. Oh, I would trade 7 for Anunoby. I wouldn't trade Anunoby for 7, personally. I love OG Anunoby.
I think I agree with you. I think I agree with you on all those things. Yeah, I really like Anunoby as well. He's on a great deal.
So I'll only mention this briefly. Like this came up with Nate when we were doing Dunked On some preview, and I'm like, how Toronto resolves their front court situation, because like I think they're going to resolve it by just keeping all those dudes for at least one more year. But like Siakam, Barnes, and OG Anunoby, like you can play all of them together, but if any one of them became available, it just totally upends this entire thing.
Upends the
trade market, the free agency market, just all this type of stuff, because they're all really good players. It's just, can you make it work? I think besides just going to keep them all, he'd be completely justified in doing so. But just noting it.
No, I'm with you.